Hear the band play the last flowers on the floor. The sun shining down on his face. The winds blow gently and the wind his down. The trenches have vanished all under. No gas, no barbed wire, no guns firing now. But here in this graveyard, there's still no man's land. The countless white crosses in Unionist strands. To man's blind indifference to his fellow man. And the whole generation were butchered and damned in the evening. The drums slowly decay the fight moving in the sound. The death march as they lower down. Here's the band playing the last post and chorus. To the pipes with the flowers on the floor. You all those who lie here know why they die. Did you really believe them when they told you? Did you really believe that this war would end warfare? The suffering, the sorrow, the glory, the shame, the killing and dying, it was all done in vain. Oh, we live, we ride it all out. Again and again and again and again and again. The drums slowly to the play, the pipe moving in the sound, the death march as they lowered it down. Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers on the floor? Can you tell how you feel on a cold steel rail? A smile through a veil. Do you think you can tell? Did they get you to train your heroes for ghosts? Hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change. Did you exchange walk-on part in the wall for a lead role in a cage?
Thank you. Please be seated. Love doesn't end with dying or leave with the last breath. For someone you have loved dearly, love goes on forever. I welcome you all here today as we come to pay tribute and honour and respect to Jessie. My name is Sue Peterson and I feel honoured to be the funeral celebrant today. As I look around the room, I can see just how many lives Jessie has touched and how much Jessie and his family mean to each one of you. His life has obviously had a real impact, and that is truly why we are here, simply because you are Jessie's friends and friends of Jessie's family, and your presence here today is sincerely appreciated. I'd like to start this service by acknowledging some very special people in Jessie's life as we come here with our love and heartfelt sympathy to Jessie's family. Much loved son of Wayne and Sue, loved brother of Soph deceased, Luke and half-brother of Brad, grandson of Nana and Nanor deceased. Jessie's Nana in Wellington is unable to travel here today, but she sends her love. Nephew of Diana and Gary, Jenny and Robbie and Jeff, cousin to many. Jessie has certainly formed a wide circle of friends who are also feeling their loss, and so we also think of you all. Jessie was incredibly proud of his tūhoi, their Ngaitarangi heritage, with his Gigi grandma being born to a Māori mum and an English dad, in the cottage you see here in the photo. This house is on the beachfront in Kikapokawhiri Bay and is the oldest homestead still standing in Coromandel. I can well imagine that each one of you holds in your hearts your own special and personal memories, and during the service there will be tributes shared by some of Jessie's close friends and family. I'd just like to make mention that there is a memorial book at the entrance which the family would like you to sign if you haven't already done so. There is also a special memorial book which the family would like you to write any personal message or anecdotes. The words of committal will take place at the end of the service, as Jessie will be privately cremated later. Jessie's family will go with him on his final journey, and anyone who would like to follow is more than welcome, as they will be stopping under the trees at Pies Par Cemetery. And you're all invited to join here for refreshments after the service. Over the last few days, there has been a lot of support shared with Jessie's family. Lots of baking, meals, flowers, lots of friends visiting, many phone calls, text messages, emails and Facebook messages. and there are just too many names to mention, but you know who you are, so a big thank you on behalf of Jesse's family. This has been sincerely appreciated. While chatting with Jesse's family, I soon became aware of the depth of love, respect and admiration with which he was held. And so I'd like to now share with you all memories of Jesse that his family shared with me. Jesse took guitar lessons when he was younger, and during this eulogy we will play some of Jesse's actual guitar recital pieces and see montage of pictures that we can remember him by. Jesse came into this world on the 31st of October 1988. The family was involved in a lot of local Papamoa groups, starting with Play Centre, then various sporting groups. Any Jessean family have always been surrounded by a wonderful, supportive Papamoa community. From a young age, he was always full of mischief. He loved to climb, swim and take on dares. He became a member of the Papamoa Swimming Club and was a fantastic swimmer. He also joined the Papamoa Surf Club and was a nipper and then a lifeguard and won many swimming and surf life-saving medals. He loved the outdoors and spent his early childhood fishing, diving and camping, which he continued to love throughout his life. Wayne and Sue spent many weekends taking Jesse to swimming and surfing carnivals for years, and then it was band gigs, starting with the College Rock Quest and then on to the shed shows in Wharf Street and beyond. Although the academic side of school wasn't Jesse's strong point, he certainly had a natural talent for art and music. He apparently created quite a bit of mischief on the school bus at times, but was also an easy target to take the blame for his mates when he was actually behaving himself. He joined his first real band at Mount Intermediate. It became very obvious that he loved punk music, and his bands through his college days were more punk inclined, and that was the start of his punk world. However, many of his more recent friends did not know that he was a talented classical fingerpicking guitarist, and he could also bang out a pretty good tune on a banjo and mandolin. And so we will now listen to a couple of songs of Jesse's, the music, and view some photos. I'm sure most of you know Jesse had a wicked sense of humour, right down to the type of tattoos he got. One such example was when he had a t-shirt with a print on the front that was wearing off. In true Jesse loyalty, he simply tattooed the design on his chest. Jesse, as many will know, also carried a chip on his shoulder throughout his adult life, which again he cemented a tattoo of the word chip on his shoulder. And this would be the first and only time Wayne smiled at one of Jesse's tattoos. He was well known for his cheeky personality, but he was also a young man with a heart of gold. He was very proud and extremely loyal. He loved to cook, and his mates would often come round for his mean-as feed. Tragically, in 2004, his beautiful sister Soph was killed in a car accident. And from that tragedy, Jesse's spirit was totally crushed. He never truly got over Sophie's death. And during this time, Jesse was embraced by his family and many friends. And we will now listen to more of Jesse's music, songs, and view some photos. When Jesse finished college, his Uncle Gary got him a job with City Care, where he started an apprenticeship as a water technician. He got offered lots of jobs with City Care, however he chose to move to Wellington, where he got a job at Weta Workshops working with his Uncle Robbie, making props such as swords and armour for movie industry. Until his passing, Jesse continued to craft bone-handled knives out of Wayne's old files. It just so happened that Jesse's nana lived in Wellington, where he loved to visit her. Although she never knew what colour hair he would turn up with, however, underneath all that different coloured hair and those tats was her handsome grandson, whom she loved dearly. Around this time, Jesse also had some commercial diving adventures around the South Island with his cousin, Kinner. Presenting his mum and dad with a beautiful Ponama boulder he had found on one of his trips. While living in Wellington, Jesse lost a few of his close friends in tragic circumstances, and he struggled hugely with the loss of those mates. This was when he was embraced by the punk community and began a very special relationship with Mike and Linda Atkinson. This gave Wayne and Sue great comfort, knowing that Jesse was being watched over. While in Wellington, Jesse's beloved Tauranga-based Nanor passed away, and Jesse rushed back home with his family. Jesse and Uncle Robbie also wrote and performed a guitar piece at the funeral, which his Nana would have been extremely proud of. After moving to Auckland, he met Lisa, who had a son, Dharma, and Jesse became the father to Dharma, taking him under his wing, cooking and caring for him as if he was his own son. He was a big part of Jesse's heart. The three of them moved back to Papamoa, where they lived together for a number of years. During this time, Jesse's burdens became very heavy, and he experienced what was one of the darkest periods of his life. Seeing this happening, Jesse's good friends kicked his butt and got him a job as a roofer. His old Papamoa friends were there for him with lots of support. He got back into his kayak fishing, surfing and camping, and life started to become more normal again, although his friends would often have to make him take his gumboots off before getting into his kayak for a fishing trip. Last Christmas, Jed and Lauren, Mike and Linda suggested he move to Melbourne, so they sheltered him a return ticket so that he could see what opportunities may be available to him. Soon after this, Jesse, Wayne and Sue shared a wonderful 90th birthday party for Jesse's Wellington Nana with Jesse's half-brother Brad and his wife Sharon and their 3 kids. Jesse had a ball getting saturated in the water fights with his nephews and niece, and as Nana said, it was the best birthday ever. He returned home to Papamoa and the job he loved for a time, but he decided that his future lay in Melbourne, and he moved over with a glowing job reference and moved in with Mike and Linda. He quickly found work and began to enjoy time and his Melbourne friends and the Melbourne concert scene. While Jesse was still finding his feet in Melbourne, the opportunity to sail from Darwin to Indonesia came up with 2 friends, and he jumped at the chance. The boys had a wonderful adventure, spending 8 weeks exploring Indonesia from Kupang through all the islands and completing the trip to Lombok. Jesse called his mum and dad fairly regularly, telling tales of diving with manta rays, sharks and turtles, and surfing through some of Indonesia's famous surf breaks. One funny story they heard was when the boys were told about the dangerous dragons of Komodo Island. So they went ashore armed to the teeth. Jesse had a small machete, Parker had a rock in a sock, and Gurney the Aussie had a jandal. He also sent a message from sea to tell us that they were sailing past an erupting volcano one evening and mentioned that he'd been free diving down to 20 metres like Kazikana. He flew out of Lombok 4 hours before the huge recent earthquake. He enjoyed this adventure so much so that when he returned to Melbourne, he was already planning more travel. Life was great. And on behalf of Jesse's family, thank you to Jed and Lauren, Mike and Linda, and the Indonesia Melbourne cruise for giving Jesse a memorable last few months full of adventure and fun. Soon after going back to work, Jesse's wonderful friends organised a surprise 30th birthday party for him, and he was completely blown away that they cared so much for him. Sadly, the day before Jesse was to start a new role with his roofing job as foreman, he passed away peacefully of natural causes while at home in bed asleep. This has been devastating for all those who loved him and knew him, and our hearts go out to you all. So let us not forget or lightly pass over the years Jesse has lived and the significance of those years for him and for those who loved him very much. One of the important reasons for having this service is so that we can gather up the memories Jesse leaves us. memories which we can take with us into the future as we travel on without his physical presence. Each of you has your own personal memories of the impact Jesse's life had on yours. Some short stories that some of his friends have shared with his family over the last few days. His party trick of snorting a teaspoon of wasabi. The time he dropped everything and hitchhiked from Wellington and back to see Shannon when he heard he was badly injured in Tauranga Hospital. Or the evening he and Jed tried to teach their Auckland friends the Papamoa Primary School line dance moves. So I'd like to now invite Jesse's South Island whānau to come up and share some memories. Thank you.
Kia ora, everybody. I'm Jesse's auntie, and this is Uncle Robbie. Thank you, Jesse, for being such a bright and loving presence in the life of our whānau. Been an inspiration in individuality and love. Thank you. And to read Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to reap. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. And for us gathered here today, this is a time we're trying to make sense. It is a time we're trying to make sense of Jesus' sudden passing, and a time to wrap our strength and araha around Sue, Wayne and Luke.
I'm just going to play a song for Jess. Better check this thing's. Unfortunately, I've got Jess as a backup, which is pity for me because he's the really good guitarist. Jess was, I just love Jess to bits. Like, you know, being his uncle was just fantastic to have the privilege of knowing him, and I had so much respect for him. I really did. He was just such a good kid, you know, to have around, and he was so solid, you know. We just loved him and our family, and you know, just the opportunity to be with him was always good. And his crew that he turned up with in the van one day and drove off the road, it was brilliant. We had to spend hours getting it back on the hill, but we did it. And they spent the night down in our big shack and had a fire on the beach and had a good time. And he was good. And he stayed with us for a while and broke every handle I had in my shed, working really hard, but broke every handle. So I thought, Christ, I need to get steel handles. But anyway, I'm going to make the song for Jess, and I'm not going to go punk or anything. When life knocks you down, you get back up off the ground. Yeah, when life push you around, you stand up straight again. You don't let anything put you in. When the flame, yeah, burns rages, burns like a forest fire. When the flame burns and rages, wiping out all your desire, you get back up, yeah, get back up, yeah, get back up, yeah, you stand up straight. You're Jesse James, Jesse James, yeah. Oh, Jesse James, he stood up, yeah, stood up straight and tall, yeah, you don't take no fall, yeah, when things knocked him around, he seemed to get himself back up the ground. When the flame, oh, when the flame goes out, we're gonna carry that flame. We're gonna carry that flame, and let love surround you, Jesse James. Let love surround you, Jesse James. Yeah. We're gonna carry that flame, and let love surround you, Jesse James. Love surround you, Jesse James. With that flame, gonna carry that flame, gonna carry that flame, gonna burn that pain. Yeah, with that love, yeah, with that love, oh, comes right. Yeah, Jesse James, we're gonna see you through. We ain't gonna forget you, gonna carry you inside our heart. Oh, Jesse boy, yeah, Jesse boy, yeah, you won't be always in your heart.
I'd like to now invite the North Island whānau to come forward, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Tess and I'm Zana and we're Jesse's cousins. We live in Tauranga. We had the great honour of growing up with Jesse and Luke and bringing up to this ship. We've got a poem to read today. This poem called Sea Fever had a special significance to Jesse and his family. Sophie actually gifted this poem to Wayne in 2002, and it really resonated with the whole family. When Sophie passed, this poem was read at her service, and I think this kind of further cemented the special place it held in Jesse and the rest of the family's heart.
Sea fever. I must go down to the sea again, to the lonely sea in the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick, and the wind's song, and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face, and a grey dawn breaking.
I must go down to the seas again for the call of the running tide. There's a wild call and a clear call that cannot be denied. All I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blowing surf and the seagulls crying.
I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep in a sweet dream, and the long trip's over. Sorry, love you.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Jesse's Melbourne friends to come forward, please.
Hello, I'm Mike. I thank Wayne and Sue, Luke and Ivana for allowing me the privilege to talk about Jesse. And I say I talk on behalf of my family, Linda, Holly, Ross and the kids, Emmanuel and Judah. We first met Jesse 12 years ago when he and his mates were grieving the untimely deaths of good friends of theirs, one of which was our son Emmanuel. We didn't know Jesse, apart from the stories that Emmanuel told us, but we trusted his opinion that Jesse was a GC. I can't give a definition because there's kids present. You'll just have to work that out. But we got to know Jesse between then and now. The Jesse we met and grew to know and love was a larger-than-life punk rocker, and in that he excelled. Punk gave Jesse freedom to be, dress, say and do whatever he felt like, and it gave him a community of like-minded individuals to share the good times and bad. But it was Jesse's own nature that allowed him to connect so strongly with people inside and out of the punk scene, most of whom are here today to farewell Jesse. Over time, we discovered that Jesse saw the world differently than most of us. Jesse didn't see the outward appearance of anyone. Rather, he saw the heart. We would describe someone we had met with Jesse, and we'd describe them by their quirks or their appearance, and Jesse wouldn't know who we were talking about. Then we would say, oh, they said or they did this, or they were friends of so-and-so. He would say, oh yeah, he, she was a GC, or not, as the case may be. But more so, Jesse formed his own opinion of people, and that opinion did not waver. Jesse freely and unreservedly loved the old, the young, the quirky, the outcasts, the damaged, the sad, the alone, and always had no regard for ethnicity. We saw Jesse's implementation of that love in defending, and I mean in all senses of that word, trusting, assisting in practical ways, believing and being there for those he loved, without a moment's thought of recognition or reward for himself. While Jesse so practically displayed his love for people, this masked to many his self-doubt, his low self-confidence, his deep and unyielding sadness over losing Sophie, and then good friends to boot, and the anxiousness that accompanied his waking hours. To us, that Jesse overcame these frailties daily to be a loving relative, a great father, best mate to many, a productive and loyal employee, and the very best housemate, while being the funniest, most outrageous, and often the most punishing person we know is a reflection of exactly who Jesse was. For us and others, the fact that Jesse was not only managing his frailties but was conquering them in his time in Melbourne is a comfort, as bittersweet as this is. And now we face a life, and in our case, our house, without Jesse, and we are filled with an immense sadness for our loss. But if we had to choose all over again, we would happily accept this pain for the time we had with Jesse, and we'll never, never forget our other son.
Hi, I'm Lauren. Jesse's family's asked me to speak today a little bit about his life in Melbourne, where he was living recently. In February of this year, we bought Jesse a flight to Melbourne to visit us as a gift, and after his trip, he decided to move himself over for good. He lived with us at first, and then with our friends Mike and Linda for the last 6 or 7 months, which he just loved so much. Jesse always had a larger-than-life party animal reputation, which he rightfully earned, but that's not what we experienced with him in the last year. Jesse in Melbourne was living large, but he was also settling into a healthier, happier life. He was working hard, making friends, and he was thriving. He was surfing and camping with us all the time. We just bought him a swag for his birthday, which is this like classic Australian one-man, two-man tent. And that was just because we wanted to encourage him to come out with us into the bush as often as we could, because he just loved it out there. Jesse's very first morning after his trip, when he moved back, he told me, "Oh, I'm going off to the library to apply for jobs," and at lunchtime he called me and told me he'd been hired. The night before he passed away, he was planning an early night because he'd just been given a promotion and he wanted to be fresh and at his best the next day. When he was leading his crew for the first time, his co-workers and his boss just loved him and trusted him absolutely. Of course, Jesse still went out to parties and to shows, and he made a standard impression on everyone he met. Things were a bit quieter in Melbourne than he was used to, but it seemed to suit him just fine. Weekends were still for going out and meeting new people and having a laugh and commandeering the music and changing the songs every 30 seconds. But weekdays and Sunday nights were for his closest friends. A quiet beer and dinner. He would cook for us and Mike and Linda, me and Jed and Mike and Linda, almost every Sunday night. And we got really into Settlers of Catan, which is the board game, which he was infuriatingly good at. More than once, you would get to the end of the game and he'd offer you this amazing trade, and you'd realise he'd been keeping tabs, he'd just been watching you the whole game and he knew exactly what you needed to win. And you'd have this moment, you'd be like, "Oh, Jesse, thank you, like, oh my gosh, thanks for the trade, I'm going to win." And then he'd give you that look, you know, he'd give you that grin, and you'd realise the thing you'd traded for him was the one thing you needed, and just when you thought you might stand a chance to win, finally, isn't the case. Also, he was never above blatant favouritism, and he had this ongoing business relationship with Jed, which was really tough for the rest of us who never got a show-in with his things that he had. Jesse's trip to Indonesia was a highlight of the past year for him. The excitement and enthusiasm he had for travelling when he travelled was palpable, and it just radiated off him. For weeks after, every conversation we had with him was peppered with tidbits of, you know, you'd be eating dinner and he'd say, "Oh, in Indonesia you don't use that, that's considered rude," or "In Indonesia they do it this way." He got along like a house on fire with the locals, and he made friends that he planned on visiting again as soon as he could. When I asked one of the guys he travelled with, Dylan, if there was anything important I should mention about the trip, he sent me this novel. He said, "Mate, I just need one line," and he just sent me so much, all about the amazing things they did. And he said, "It speaks volumes about a man who only just left the land of the long white cloud that he has mourned in Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Europe and Canada." That was Jesse, making the biggest impact on everyone he met, everywhere he went, and it's not just our little corner of the world that feels smaller and quieter without him now. Just a few weeks ago, it was Jesse's birthday, his 30th. Mike told him that we'd invited him over for dinner at our place. Little did he know we'd organised most of his friends to meet at a local pub to surprise him. Expecting a quiet night in, he arrived at our house in track pants, work shirt and no shoes or socks. We had to convince him to put on a pair of gumboots he left at our place because they wouldn't let him in the pub without them. We sent our friends Dave and Monica down to the pub early with balloons, presents and a cake. When they came outside to say goodbye to us, Jesse just visibly deflated. You know, he just was like, "Oh, they don't want to spend my birthday with me." But obviously he was just like, "No worries guys, you know, go have fun." And then, you know, 15 minutes later we turn up at the pub and there they are with a dozen of our friends, and he was just blown away. He was so happy. He told Mike later just how much it meant to him to feel so loved and surrounded by friends when he'd only just arrived in Melbourne, and because he'd been such a ratbag to everybody for so long, I think it really meant a lot that we all came out there to surprise him and celebrate just how much we loved him. Mike told us later that he made sure to remind him that he just needed to believe in himself the way that we all believe in him and know how deeply he was loved, both here and in his new home in Melbourne. Socially, he was thriving too. He was reconnecting with old friends as well as making new ones. Our friend Dave received a text one Sunday morning that simply said, That friend of yours from New Zealand, Jesse, is the nicest guy I have ever met. He was also dating. He had met someone he cared about and had an important friendship with her. His self-confidence was growing and blooming, and it was obvious to us all that he was feeling more comfortable and confident in himself and his place in the world. Moving to Melbourne was a new chapter for Jesse. We moved there ourselves when we were 21 and full of a youthful sense of invincibility, and it was still really scary for us. To move countries when you're almost 30 is something I'm not sure I would have had the guts to do myself. I cannot stress enough just how proud we were of him every day for being so brave and strong and for making this amazing choice for himself. He put himself out there and was simply thriving and growing in ways we'd never seen from him before. Jed and I would talk together after we hung out with him about how amazed we were at the changes we saw in him and how happy we were that he was doing so well. Jed told me more than once, this is the happiest I've seen him since Sophie died. We are devastated by the loss of him. We will hold on to that forever, that we got a chance to have him over in Melbourne. He was doing so well, and while it feels deeply unfair that that was cut short just as it was getting so good, we're eternally grateful that we got to spend such a happy year with him before he left us. We are also so thankful to his family for loving and supporting him so much in his move. I don't think he would have done it if he hadn't known that you guys just loved and supported him unconditionally. I will never stop listening for Jesse's heavy booted footsteps in our hallway, or missing the overwhelming heaviness of his arm around my shoulders, his reliable, huge, solid presence in our lives. I feel so lucky to have known him and to have been loved by him. He was our best friend, and we will love him and we will miss him every day of our lives.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Mike. I'd like to now invite Wayne and Sue's nephews to read final tribute from Sue, Wayne and Luke. Thank you.
This is a message from Wayne and Sue and Luke for all of you. Many aspects of Jesse's life contributed to who he is today. From his early years at Play Centre, where he made lifelong friends, many of whom are here today, to his love of his nanas and time spent with whānau, from being a beautiful brother to Sophie and to Luke, to his artistic and musical talents, ranging from gentle fingerpicking to punk, and to his love of the outdoors and the ocean. To the myriad of people who embraced and supported him when Sophie passed away, to the friends in Wellington, Auckland and elsewhere, to the years he spent as a father to Dharma, to his sailing trip through Indonesia and his last fun months in Melbourne, and to 30 years as our son and brother. Each and every aspect of his life was as important to him as the parts before and the part to come. All of you have contributed to the wonderful man he became, and as a family, we sincerely thank you.
Thank you, Zane. Thank you to all who have shared special memories and poems, and I can well imagine there'll be lots of memories shared over refreshments later on. Many photos have been captured over the 30 years of Jesse's life, and so we will now play a montage of photos and listen to Jesse playing as we sit in reflection of all those special memories of Jesse. So now let us reflect. I can't help feeling that there's something special about today. You see, you are the positive evidence that Jesse's influence hasn't just ceased because he has left us. In some special way, he has even more strength now to bring people together, to touch something down deep to us. You can't help feeling that there's something special Jesse wants to say to us, something different to each one of us according to our strengths and our uniqueness. For some, it may be not to put off what you want to do in life. For some, to give more of ourselves to others, just like Jesse did. For some, not to take life too seriously, because you never know how brief it might be. For others, to take life perhaps more seriously, because it is so fragile. But to all of us, that we should be kind, that we should not judge others, that we should always make time for each other. We should go beyond the superficial, stop worrying so much about ourselves, tell our loved ones how much we love them, and ask them about their lives, and we should do it before it is too late. Life is short, and we never know just how short it may be. Jesse might be challenging us to make our own lives more meaningful and worthwhile. And if we can do this, what we are really doing for Jesse is giving continuing purpose to his life, some meaning to his passing, and a living and lasting continuing sake in our lives. We are making sure he is not just part of the past or in the memories, in our memories, or of the present in our grief, but is very much part of our future lives. And then someday, looking back, we will see Jessie's memory, not as it is today, a tear-filled cloud, but a beautiful light on our horizon, giving our lives an extra richness and dimension of meaning. When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. You will treasure and cherish your memories of Jessie. You will never forget his cheeky, kind, generous and loyal personality. In love and in respect, we have remembered Jessie's life and we have recalled the person he has been. In this last act, in sorrow but without fear, his character and personality we commit to our memories. His love and friendship we commit to our hearts. Jessie's spirit will always be with you. He's that brightest star far above. He's the whisper in the trees. He's inside your laughter. He's crystallised in every teardrop. Jessie's spirit has touched you all. So just before the words of committal, we're going to play a couple of verses of Izzy's version to the song Over the Rainbow to sing together. So I ask that you all now please stand and remain standing for the committal and carriage. Thank you. We now tenderly and lovingly commend the soul of Jessie, and we commit his body to be cremated. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, but his spirit was on both sin and amongst us, and the memories he leaves we will cherish. And now let us go into the world, glad that we have loved, free to weep for the one we have lost, free to hold each other in our human frailty, empowered to live life as Jessie did, and to affirm the hope of human existence. We now release the spirit of Jessie. Rest in peace, Jessie. Rest in love, and our love goes with you.
Just remember who you